Never waste a good crisis. And when it comes to the economic crisis, don't waste it when it can have a very positive impact.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste.
The way we're going to win over the long term is not just militarily. We've got to win over hearts and minds. And what that means is we've got to invest in countries that have no educational infrastructure, have no means for young people to get ahead. We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
Stay tuned for politics and religion.
Today is the third and last DVD in this series, Berlin Wall in Bible Prophecy, the deadly wound that was to be healed. Today we're going to talk about the part of the story that's never been told. We're going to disclose today what most people don't know, you never heard over any of the major networks, how Mikhail Gorbachev and Pope John Paul II planned the fall of the Berlin Wall. It's going to be a very interesting day when you see the leader of the communist world cooperating behind the scenes and publicly with the leader of the Catholic world and a spiritual world. Well, that's an interesting story indeed. Now, in order to learn about these things, I want to give you some quotes from the last several popes of the Roman Catholic Church. To realize the importance of this, Roman Catholicism claims to have about 1 billion members worldwide, so approximately 1/6 of the world's population, and they all give their allegiance to the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. We're going back now to the Pope that was in power at the time of World War II and also at the time of the forming of the United Nations. His name was Pope Pius XII. And Pope Pius, in vital speeches of the day on December the 15th, 1959, there was an article, Legacy to World Federalism. And in this article, it states that Pius XII urged work for peace on 3 levels. 1, the affirmation of the necessity of a supranational world order. When we use the word supranational, that means international world order transcending all boundaries. Number 2, accepting the United Nations, but with ceaseless efforts to expand it and to strengthen it. Number 3, promote the fullest cooperation with every agency that promotes international friendship. Pius was an unabashed internationalist. He desired and sought and prayed for a future world political organization true to the spirit of federalism. And when we say federalism, we're talking about a federation of nations of the world. Catholics, above all, Pius said, must realize they are called to overcome every vestige of nationalistic narrowness. Catholics have the obligation of insisting on the ratification of the Genocide Pact. Now, as we look at these statements, let me remind you, from Legacy to World Federalism, Vital Speeches of the Day, December 15, 1959, when we see these bold statements promoting and favoring one world government, this is the official statement of the head of 1 billion people on earth. Now, when he said that Roman Catholics must work to get their governments to sign on to ratify the Genocide Pact, to many of us, the word genocide is not a familiar word. And so I looked up the word genocide in the encyclopedia, and it was defined as to cause physical harm or mental harm to a minority, whether it's a racial minority, a religious minority, a sexual minority, whatever it is. But for a person to commit genocide is to cause physical or mental harm. Now, this takes on an extraordinary amount of importance when we see what Mr. Mikhail Gorbachev, one of the central players of the fall of the Berlin Wall and the establishment of the New World Order when we see what he said in his famous book, Perestroika, published in 1987, concerning genocide. He actually, on page 231, sent a list of about 19 items that all the leaders of the world should agree upon in order to bring in peace and security for the world. He said there, we must extirpate all genocide, apartheid, and religious exclusiveness. The word extirpate means to eradicate or to kill off. We must get rid of all genocide. But the interesting thing is, he puts genocide in the same category as religious exclusiveness. So he sees religious exclusiveness as a horrible danger that must be killed off, undoubtedly because he believes that religious conflict is one of the #1 causes of war upon the earth. We're going to talk more about genocide and religious exclusiveness in just a moment.